What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Sales Remastered. My name is Daniel. I'm your host. And in this video, what we're going to talk about is a topic that has to relate to why loan officers are having a difficult time in sustaining business, keeping momentum, stay producing, most importantly, stay paid. In this particular video, what we're going to talk about is one piece of information that will really change the trajectory of your career, but also help improve your conversion. And that topic has to do with scripting. I'm a big fan of scripts, but at the end of the day, what you have to understand about a script is more or less like it's a model. It's like a map, right? When you drive to work, you use a GPS to get to a specific location. But if you really look at the map, there are other alternatives to get to the same direction, but nonetheless you're still headed towards that destination. And so where I'm getting at is, some people will take a script and they'll read it verbatim and they'll think they have to say it exactly like the script says. But what I found is the challenge within it is you're trying to sound like someone who you're not, and that individual who probably wrote the script, their preference in words may not necessarily fit your preference in words. And so whenever you get a script, it's more or less just kind of like a model. It's kind of like when you go bowling, right? A script is the bumpers. It's just to make sure that you don't gutter the ball. It doesn't necessarily mean that, you have to use the gutters. It's just a matter of making sure that you're sticking to the path. And so a script really is more or less kind of an outline. Again, it's like a map, but it's important to understand two things. Number one is that a script, depending who wrote it, you don't need to memorize it, because if you memorize it and you get hit with a specific objection, then you're thrown off because you're like, wait, that wasn't part of the script. And that's the thing in sales, is that you have to really kind of be able to pivot and adapt. But the script should very well keep you in line with regards to the common goal. The second thing is that if you do get a script, as tempting as it is, you want to try and make it your own, meaning that, if there's a particular word that you're not really comfortable with or it doesn't sound natural to you, because the goal is to really, use the script as kind of a guide, but it has to still sound natural, like you're having a conversation. What I have found in my experience is that I'll give someone a very solid script and they'll do one of two things. Either number one, they'll memorize it verbatim, but because they're trying to memorize it and use it verbatim, they're using words that they're not confident in. And so therefore it changes the dynamics of their tone, their cadence, their rhythm. Not only that, but it also makes the originator using the script more focused on themselves when the focus should be on the person you're actually talking to. The second thing is, I've noticed is that we tend to add to it. And the reason why we add to it is because we naturally want to do a few things. Number one is we want to justify, or we want to give too much information, or we feel like it's not giving information, and so therefore we add to it. And so a simple script can actually turn from half a page to 3 pages because you added to it. And that's not the key. That's not the point, right? The point is, if anything, use a script, swap the words to make it your own, but never add to it, because there's a reason why that script is the way it is, because it's hopefully a proven method. And I know you might look at a script and you're like, well, this seems pretty basic. And it's basic for a reason. It's because the wording and the choice of words and the word tracking is efficient enough. And as as an originator, I can relate to you. Naturally, as humans, we want to fill in the white noise. So we want to, keep talking, right? But a script is really meant for you just to understand the basis of the conversation and what you need to cover while you drive. Because without understanding and owning that script, it's never going to sound natural, right? Anyway, the reason why this is important, whether you're a outside loan agent, meaning you're primarily networking for referral partners, realtors, attorneys, right, CPAs, or you're a broker who is buying leads, right? So you're buying aggregate leads. Aggregate leads, again, is internet leads. So you might be using a vendor who sells it to you and also 2, 3, 4, 7 different companies, depending on the price. It's pretty rare that you get exclusivity. If you do get exclusivity, you're paying premium, but you have a certain time period before it doesn't become exclusive. So you could buy it at the top price, but it's exclusive for 3 days and then now it's being sold off, right? You want to be very cautious of that. Let's say even if you're a call center loan officer, you might be given a script and you're given at-bats all day long, right? But you have to understand how to read the room, how to read the audience, and how to maneuver and pivot, right? So that it becomes your own. Because if I give you a script, that script is personally my wording. If you have a script for someone else, that's personally their choice of wording. But it may not be your choice of wording, right? So it doesn't sound natural. And what we're trying to do here is understand the concept of what a script does. A script just keeps you on track to move forward, right? Whether you swap the words with your preferred choice of specific word, right? Like I might use imminent, but you could very well, that's foreign to you, so it doesn't sound right. So you could swap the word, but just don't add to it. Don't, add fluff, because you might very well change the whole intent of the script, which therefore is counterproductive. And now it's actually defeating the purpose of even having a script. Now, it's not just that, right? Because some of you watching this has no script. You have no support. You got to just do it on your own. Not only that, but you may have a script, but maybe it's meant for only inbounds. What if I told you that, right now in this market, outbound dialing is probably more efficient than waiting for an inbound, right? Because you're actually learning how to become recession proof. You're learning how to be market proof. And what I mean by that is that no matter what the market is, as long as you know how to hunt and as long as you know how to create curiosity, right? Attract someone to want to learn more, then you're always going to be in control of your own destiny. And so one of the things that I've noticed is that, when I mentor, because I mentor thousands of LOs across the country. And one of the things that we do within our first mentoring session is I ask them, I say, okay, first thing I want to do is I want to be able to experience it as a consumer, not as a loan originator. And, I record our mentoring sessions. The mentee who, is being mentored, they get a copy of it. And oftentimes, surprising as it is, that's the first time they actually hear themselves using the script. But it's very eye-opening, because what I usually find is that script or their choice of words is actually what brings up the objections, is actually the primary reason why you're having low conversion or you can't get so far in a conversation, right? So let me give you an example. When you're doing an outbound call, right, and you're checking in or you're trying to originate business because maybe leads at your company is obsolete, you don't get any, or maybe it's low and you're trying to compensate because, on your downtime, what are you doing? Are you just waiting for them to come to you? That's not how sales works. You have to be able to adapt to the market. So if you have to go and hunt for those leads, then you need to go and actually hunt, meaning you actually have to outbound call. And so the previous video, we talked about that with regards to the response rate because of the current market, where the market is shifted, everyone's in a panic, a lot of companies are shutting down, and you may have gone from getting 10 leads a day to now getting 1 if you're lucky. So what do? Right? So the last video we talked about what to look for in the leads that you spend your time in. But okay, let's say you find the leads that is worth your time. How do you approach them? This is what I found. When I mentor LOs, oftentimes what I find is that they're playing a numbers game, meaning that when they call, there's no strategy behind it. They're playing checkers, not chess, if that makes sense. And so they're fishing versus hunting. So the traditional, method of doing an outbound call sounds like they're fishing. And here, I'll explain. Traditional method, and this may very well be, kind of like what you're doing. So let's say I'm calling, Mr. Jones, right? And they fit the criteria that I explained in the previous video of where you should be looking and who you should be calling. But now I got the lead, right? So I'm calling Mr. Jones. This is how most loan officers sound.
Hey, Mr. Jones, this is Daniel Niecart with Veritas Funding. I just wanted to give you a call and check in to see if you're in the market to look at using some of your equity because the property values in your area have increased. So you could use the equity for cash out, or you could use it for home improvements, or you could maybe use cash out just to put money in the bank. Are you interested in that?
Right, so that's fishing. The reason why is because you're offering these things. You're asking if they're in the market. There's so many words within that particular approach that pushes people away. Whereas if you're hunting, if you think about hunting, you have to be strategic, right? You're not just gonna run around with a rifle hoping that someone, that you find a particular, prey or whatever. You actually have to be patient. You have to be strategic. And so if you're hunting and you're doing it the proper way, you have to be creative. And so you have to pay very, very close attention to the words that you're using. One good way to do it is actually record yourself. You more than likely have a soft phone, so it's not like a hard phone. I came up in this industry having a hard phone, and I didn't have a computer in my pocket. I had like these little tape recorders where I had to record myself, but I couldn't hear the other person. In our case now, we got technology where you can actually ask for the copy of the recorded call, or maybe you could hit record and actually hear the call. Either way, if you have to use your iPhone or your Android to record the call and you're only hearing yourself, it's still a valuable lesson to learn. Because when you play it back, it's eye-opening. You may very well be like, damn, I didn't realize I sounded like that. And when you review it, you'll notice that you may be saying words that trigger an emotion. Meaning that, if you're calling and you're saying words like, in the market, I was wondering, are you in the market, refinance, pull cash out, debt consolidation, pull cash out for home improvements. All these specific words, these are triggers that make the consumer, the prospect that you're talking to, think of their last experience in refinancing. And it could very well have been a very negative experience. So they dealt with a loan officer who didn't know what they were doing. And so therefore they had a bad experience. They had to go back and forth with documents and constantly send, documents and nothing stayed the same. So at the very end, they didn't experience a positive, transaction, in other words. And so if you trigger that emotion, then they label you exactly as them, even though you're not that person, right? So you have to be very mindful of that. Instead, if you were really strategic about it, you would plan your wordplay, meaning that every single time that we encounter a prospect, whether it's an inbound or outbound, we're always going to come across pretty much the same objections, right? Most particular right now in this market, the objection is what? Okay, well, what's your rate or what's your fees? And so we can't position ourselves to where they are given the opportunity to even bring that question up. And you might be like,
well, Daniel, how do I do that? Everyone's worried about points and fees and what the rate is, and everyone knows that the rates are up. How do I do that?
Well, it's as simple as just being creative enough to where you act as if it's already in motion. And so if in the event I were outbounding, doing outbound calls to a particular audience that I know who needs this specific help, that's where I switch up my wordplay. And so let's say if I was calling the same exact lead, I'd be like, hey, Mr. Jones, just want to give you a quick introduction. My name is Daniel. I just want to let you know I've actually been assigned to make sure I send out some important information. It's actually going to come your way in the mail. And I just want to let you know it's with regards to your property on Memory Lane. Anyhow, it has to do with regards to a campaign that we have specific to the Irvine area or whatever city they're in, right? And your property on Memory Lane is within this area that this campaign is active. And so I want to make an introduction. So when you get it, if you have any questions, you know who to call. Hey, actually, Mr. Jones, while I got you on the phone, let me actually confirm so that way when I send this information, it's actually worth your time. See, I didn't give them the opportunity to ask me what the rate is. If anything, my wordplay was built more about curiosity, right? So number one, Mr. Jones heard that I know their address, I know their city, and I said a campaign. So now Mr. Jones is more like, okay, you're sending it to me. What does this have to do? What is this about? Which then gives me control of the conversation, which then I can carry on the call. right? I never asked him, are you interested in? Because most people, like if you think about it, like if you ever like go into, someone's house for the first time, like you're a guest somewhere and they ask you, hey, would you like something to drink? Even though we're parched, we're always gonna, be cordial and say, no, I'm okay. Or when you go into a store and someone's like, can I help you find something? What is our natural response? No, I'm okay. Even though we really do need the help, it's just our instinctive reaction. So you have to understand that part. But however, if someone were to come up to you and be like, hey, check this out. I'm glad you stopped by. Watch, come over here. I got something to show you. You're more likely to follow because you're curious. Like, well, what do you got to show me, right? And so keep in mind of that. And I think that is one of the primary reasons why certain things attract people, right? Like, as basic as like reality TV, right? It's because you're curious to see how other people live, or you're curious to see a different view, right? As if like kind of like you're spying, if you will. But nonetheless, tap into that curiosity because that is what's going to separate you from everyone else who's using the traditional method. So outside of that, another reason why loan officers are having a difficult time right now is because they're giving into their surroundings, meaning that you're surrounded by, maybe you work in an office and your entire team is not only dwindling, but they're also venting. And so they're saying, man, it's hard to close a deal. Man, people aren't buying rate, aren't refinancing right now, or they're not wanting to do business right now because they're scared of the rate or they're scared of the fees. But what you're actually hearing is just their excuse as to why they're not producing. However, most individuals will actually use that and give into it and justify it. Like, yeah, you know what, I'm having a hard time too. So you know what, you're right. And then next thing you know, you're boycotting your future because you're giving in because like, if they're saying this, then I'm experiencing it, then that must be fact. Don't give into your surroundings. If anything, try to mute that out and really look at it at the silver lining of everything. So if they feel that way, most likely all of our competitors feel that way. But if we're prepared and we have the right mentoring, we have the right guidance, guess what? We're actually picking up what they left on the table because we're the ones who sound different. So it's important that you have the right, mindset, especially if you're in a surrounding where everybody's kind of negative, they're burnt out, they feel like, oh, these leads suck, right? Because you don't want to fall into that trap. If you do fall into that trap, it's very hard to escape it. You almost want to like not hear it, right? Even though as hard as it is, not feed into that energy. But if anything, take it as like almost like a challenge. Like, okay, well, I'm gonna make it, right? I got no choice to make it. I'm not gonna vent and bitch and whine or whatever. I'm gonna make sure that this happens because I know how to make it happen. How do you know how to make it happen? Is because you gain confidence. How do you gain confidence? Is through repetition. But what are you repeating? Are you repeating a soft script that plays the numbers game? Are you actually repeating a script that was intelligently crafted, right? With strategy in mind, with experience in mind. And it's very hard to find that because oftentimes your leaders, your manager, your VP, they don't know because they're not in the trenches with us. I am. And so that's why it's important to have mentors. It's important to have someone who is thriving or who is getting the results that you want in this market and just paying attention to them. Don't pay attention to the people who dropped off because those people, they're used to the pandemic rates or the market. And so now everything's changed. They can't adapt. You need to adapt. That's the whole secret sauce of sales. If you get hit with a particular objection, you need to adapt. You need to pivot, right? So we have different objections today than we had a year before. What do we have to do? We have to acknowledge it, adapt, pivot, and then control the outcome. How do you do that? You have to get the right advice. And that's where this channel comes into play. So if this is your first time catching any content on Sales Remastered, I invite you. Please subscribe, like, and comment. Then go look at my past content. Go look at all the videos that I have available. Make sure you're using it because I'm sure it's not what you're getting in your surroundings. But with regards to a script, I invite you to go and download a copy of my free script. It's free, right? All you got to do is go to salesremastered.com. There's a link in my bio, and it's a free script. It just tells you how to use wordplay in your advantage to create curiosity, both inbound, outbound, refinance, purchase, whatever section of this industry that you're in or you're focused in. The resources available on that script will help you. So again, go to SalesRemastered.com. All you got to do is opt in. Make sure you do not use your work email. Your work email is going to quarantine my email because it's SalesRemastered.com. You want to use your personal email that you get on your cell phone. So that way you always have it available. You can pull it up real quick and read off of it. But it is very, very helpful because I have decades of experience. And if you use it, it will open your eyes. It almost seems so simple, but because it's so simple is because of the wording. It's because I don't need to fill in that silence. I don't need to add in that extra, because when I try and do that, or if we try and do that, we then become salespeople. Who do consumers avoid? Salespeople, because they don't want to be sold. But who are they attracted to? They're attracted to people who have inside information, and that's what the script shows you how to do. Now, if you've been following this channel for quite some time and you've been supporting, watching all my videos, thank you so much. Please be sure to like and comment your feedback. What's your feedback on this? Am I making sense? Do you agree? Right? Like, look at your script. Is it powerful? Are you using mine? And if you are, what are your thoughts in comparison to the script that you have now? I'm looking forward to seeing your comments. But more importantly, I'm looking forward to you viewing my next video, because I'm gonna release a bunch of new content that is relevant to today's market to make sure that you stay paid, you stay sane, but more importantly, you stay hungry, you stay motivated. You don't get burnt out. You don't have doubts. You don't have nights where you can't sleep because you're confident. And whether or not you want to get private mentoring through me, or you just want to consume all my content here on YouTube, it is your choice. But the only way that you're going to be able to get notified is if you subscribe and you hit the bell for notifications. So that way, anytime I release some new information, you're given that heads up. Now go to the bio, make sure you get a copy of my free script, put your personal email, your full name, so the script is personalized for you. It's pretty cool how it works, and I'm excited for you to check it out. I've updated it, so if you're watching this and you downloaded my script like a year ago, it's completely updated and revamped to today's current market. So be sure you go check it out. SalesRemastered.com, and make sure you make a request. It has you verify your email address because I can't release it to anyone, and then you'll be able to get a copy to have available at all times. Looking forward to seeing you on the next video, and I'm looking forward to reading your replies on this video with regards to your feedback. I'll talk to you later.